Hi there everyone, this is Joy, and welcome back to another Inspiration Friday video with my friend Fleur. This month we're being inspired by florals or flowers, and I'm not big on florals or flowers, and I actually don't own very much in terms of stamps or papers. So I'm going to be creating my own flowers or florals today using some stencils for this art journal page. Right now I'm showing you that I created the background for this art journal page by collaging different die cuts together from crepe paper. I'm using some soft matte gel to glue everything down to the base pages. Once the collage background is dry, I'm going to take out some gesso and a baby wipe and apply a thin layer over top of both pages. By doing so, it's going to push all of these different colors and all the die cut shapes into the background a little bit further so they kind of blend together. I did use my heat tool to dry the gesso so I could move on to the next step without having to wait for it. I can start now creating the sky and the ground that are going to become the base of this page. I'm using some acrylic paint today. You can see some of it off the top of the screen there. Sorry, it's not in frame. All I'm going to be doing is using a paintbrush and some makeup sponges to apply the paint onto the background. I'm going to use a baby wipe, as always, to remove some of the thicker layers of paint that I've applied just to thin them out a bit. After everything was dry, I got out a stencil that kind of mimics the look of vines. It was a flourish stencil to add a little bit of interest into the ground area. This house stencil is actually going to be part of the focus of the page, and I'm going to use some other stencils that aren't meant to be flowers, but they're going to be flowers for this, and I'm going to create my own garden for those houses. I had an idea to create a homemade mask to help me change the shape of some of the stencils that I'm using to create some round flower tops. So I'm just punching some circles out with different sizes of circle punches, and I'm going to show you here what I mean by layer this mask over a stencil or under a stencil to create a circle when I don't have a circle stencil to use. I'm going to be able to use makeup sponges and pounce the paint over top in order to help me create those circle flowers. I'm going to stencil the houses with some black gesso since the paints that I'm using today actually have a matte finish to them. I really like this stencil and have it in both the 12x12 and the 6x6 size. I've used it before on other art journal pages and also to create cards for people when they move into a new house or when they come home from a trip. Creating the flowers for this garden for the art journal page today was really kind of fun, using my stencils in a different way than they were intended. I really liked stretching my supplies like that. Here's a stencil that's actually snowflakes. I believe this was created by Dina Wakely and came with a set of winter birds. Here's that masking that I was talking about. I'm taking a Tim Holtz stencil and using that circle mask to create some purple circle flowers. The process of creating this garden is the same for both of the pages that I'm creating today. So I'm going to share what I do on the first page and then finish off the second page off camera. This stencil that I'm using here is a 4x4 stencil from the Crafter's Workshop, and I really like the way that these flowers turned out. This next stencil is from Tim Holtz, and I'm going to turn it upside down to create some yellow flowers for the garden. Next, I'm going to move on to the next page and then show you the finished result. Here's a look at the pages so far. Now, since I have some paint left on my desk, I decided why not add some sunshine to this page with some of that yellow and orange paint that I have sitting there on my desk. Part of the fun in any craft is playing with all of the pretty colors. And sometimes we might create things that are a little more realistic to life. Or in this case, like I'm doing today, I'm adding some pink flying birds across my sky. It's time to get back to the flowers on this page and beef up the bottom area. I'm going to use some darker green paint and a watercolor brush to create the stems and blades of grass down at the bottom on both pages. I pulled out another one of my stencils that reminds me of leaves, and because the pattern is smaller, I'm going to use those as leaves on the flowers. I'm using a black Mark All pencil to trace around the individual spots on the stencil and to also define the stems of each of the flowers that I created with the dark green paint. After looking at the page and the addition of the black leaves and the stems, the flowers kind of seem to fade a little bit, so I'm going to use a black fountain pen in order to trace around each of the flowers. I'm going to repeat the process on all of the flowers and on both pages. I really like the way that this page is turning out, and while I was doodling the flowers, I was humming and hawing over whether I would add paint to the houses, and as you can see, I did decide to do that. So I'm going to keep it simple and use brown on all of the roofs, and then use some of the paint colors from the flowers and paint the 3 houses. I did not use a fine enough brush, and I wasn't all that careful when I was painting the houses, and I could have left them, but I decided to go in with a stencil again and some more black gesso just to define the lines a little bit better. I don't always work on my art journal pages from start to finish, but when I do, I usually go ahead and add a quote just to finish it off. I looked up quotes about flowers online and found one that says, "Some days I am the flower, some days I am the rain." I'm just stamping that out with a clear alphabet stamp set that I have here, and then the page is finished. Stay tuned for some still shots of the page at the end of the video. Thank you so much for joining Fleur and I again for another Inspiration Friday, and remember to check out Fleur's YouTube channel to see how she was inspired by florals this month. Thanks for watching, take care, and I'll see you next time.